school students, and they describe them as immature and sometimes foolish. Now, you ever wondered why that is? Well, it's funny that when I said that, about 4 different boys yelled out, because I think that kind of proves the point. But sometimes in middle school, we all can just kind of be immature and foolish. But here's the thing about following God. God doesn't say, wait until you're older and then get it together. God has said, hey, whatever age you are, if you hear me, I want to give you wisdom. I'm offering you like the crown jewels. I'm offering you something great. Don't settle for less. And so this morning, I want to talk about laziness. Laziness is a word we all know. Maybe you've been to a water park, and who can tell me what this thing here is called at the water park? Lazy river. I love it. They call it the lazy river because you just kind of can be lazy and go around. Next one's a little harder. They have them sometimes at some Asian restaurants. And it kind of spins around. Anyone know what that's called? A lazy Susan. You might have those in your house in a cabinet or so forth. And then maybe you get home and you chill on one of these.
Lazy recliner, lazy boy.
Lazy boy. It's called the lazy boy. Anyone have one of those chairs at home? Those are wonderful because you can just kind of relax on it. Lazy. It's a word we use in a lot of different ways. Laziness is defined as being resistant to work or exerting yourself. You resist work or effort, and you result to just chilling, meaning you do nothing. So in Hebrew, which is the language that the Old Testament was written in, the word for laziness is atzal, and it means to hesitate or delay. It means to be sluggish or slow, to engage in action, and so to engage in action slowly, and so you extend the amount of time it takes to do something. In other words, it's saying you take longer to do something than it should take. It's a hesitation. It's a delay. You ever heard the term slacker? Somebody calls you a slacker? All right, well, we've been having some computer issues, but I have like this couple-second clip. This is from the movie Back to the Future, where he uses the term slacker.
You're going to end up in big trouble.
Oh, yes, sir.
You've got a real attitude problem, McFly. You're a slacker. You're a slacker. You're a slacker.
How about that? He said, so the guy is always late for school, and so that's the principal telling him, you're a slacker. Anyone ever been called a slacker before? Yeah, my kids better raise their hands because they've definitely been called slackers. So let's summarize laziness as this. It's the hesitation or slowness that causes things to take longer or just not get done, right? This is what laziness is. I don't think there's a person in here who isn't lazy at times. So if I can be honest, when I originally started writing this message, it was really convicting, which means God made me aware of some things. And I had to stop and say, wait a minute, why am I delaying doing that? And so I'm still working on this. I'm a work in progress. And so in light of this, if you grabbed one of those note sheets, you're going to notice it's a little bit different. Look at the back of that note sheet. On the back of the note sheets, you'll notice there's a bunch of verses. That's so you don't have to try to keep up because there's a lot of them today that I'm going to explain. And you can just kind of look at them. You can make notes on them if you want. So you should have the pre-printed note sheet. It should say slackers on the top. If you don't have that, just raise your hand. And so let's start things off. So just don't be lazy. Write down the things that stand out. 2 types of laziness. The first one is this: momentary laziness. Momentary laziness. Proverbs chapter 6, verses 9 through 11 says this: how long will you lie there, you sluggard? When will you get up from your sleep? A little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a bandit, and scarcity like an armed man. I love the drama of that, right? How long are you just going to lay there? You fold your hands, and then bam, all of a sudden you're poor and homeless. Now this is talking about, though, when we delay doing things that need to be done, and we choose, instead of doing this, now I know no one's ever done this, but pretend you have, instead of doing what you need to do, you go to sleep. Or you lay down and you do something. Wait, have you guys done that before?
Yes,
I did that all the time. We do that all the time. Now first, let me say this. Sleep is good. Everybody say sleep is good. Sleep actually reminds us that we're dependent on God. Did you know that? We need rest. God doesn't. God has never taken a nap. He doesn't need to take a rest, right? On the 7th day, God rested not because he had to, but he did that to show us that we are going to need to rest. It reminds us that we can stop, and God is able to keep working. It really demonstrates faith. It's saying to God, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take care of myself and trust that you'll take care of the other things. And so sleeping is good. But the problem is we sleep to avoid doing things. We sleep late. How long will you lie there, you sluggard? When are you going to get up from your sleep? Because a little sleep and a little slumber, and all of a sudden things end up the way you never expected. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 13. Do not love sleep, or you will grow poor. Stay awake, and you will have food to spare. Do not love sleep. And some of you right now are thinking, uh-oh, I'm a little bit of trouble because I love sleep. Sleep is something we need, but when it becomes so important to you that you continually choose that over accomplishing some of the things that God has for you, it's a problem. This is momentary laziness. Now, the Bible is not saying everyone needs to get up at the crack of dawn. You should be up at 4:30, but you should ask yourself, first of all, on the days when you don't have to get up for school, are there things that need to get done that you don't do because you're sleeping until past lunchtime? Do you fail to get up for church on Sunday, maybe because you're too tired from sleeping late? Or maybe you just get home and you just lounge in the chair, and I love to just lounge in the chair and watch Netflix, and it makes it so easy because you're like, I'm not going to watch another one, and then it counts down, and then it's like, well, it already started, I'm just going to watch this, one more isn't going to kill me, and next thing you know, you've watched 7, right? But have you ever noticed in the long run how unsatisfying that is? How as a whole, we don't usually look and say, hey, I watched 7 episodes of Fuller House today. I feel awesome about my life, right? I think of this past week. I didn't work this week. I took the days off. And the best days for me, yes, there were some times when I stepped back and just took some time with God. There were some times I was still. But the times when I just watched things, for me personally, it was really unsatisfying. I'm going to take you to another proverb, Proverb 26:14. As a door turns on its hinges, so a sluggard turns on his bed. And this is talking about the person that instead of getting up, they just keep rolling over, right? Like a door on its hinges. Does that sound like anybody? Sound like anybody you know? You relate to that? It's like, I need to get up. I did that this morning, right? This was the first time that was terrifying. All right, so we're good now? That was a balloon, right? No one's packing in here. All right, so this morning, that's the first time I had to get up in a while, right? And so it's like, you're like a door on its hinges, and you just like, oh, I got to get up now. And you just roll over, Now, you know what I mean here, but look past the do's and don'ts and consider this. What might you be avoiding and missing because you hold up sleep too much? Look at the most successful people you know. I'll bet you anything that some of the people that you look up to are not spending all their time sleeping or playing video games or watching every show or scrolling Instagram. And I mean, think about it. Think about the successful people that you might be busy liking their pictures all the time, and I promise you they're not doing the same thing. You know what they're doing? They're working. They're getting things done. Get wisdom. I mean, get your sleep. Consider whether or not you're taking it a little too far, right? If you're all of a sudden, everyone needs between 8 and 9 hours of sleep maximum. Figure out how much you're getting. And if you're getting more than that, there's probably a problem. Get wisdom. Momentary laziness. Proverbs 22:13, the sluggard says, there's a lion outside, or I will be murdered in the streets, or I will be killed in the public square. This is talking about making excuses. Procrastination fits in here. We say, I can't do whatever, because if I do, then I don't want to do this now. I'll do it later. And then we don't always do that. We all procrastinate, right? Tell the person next to you, say, you procrastinate. Well, you can tell them, say, so do you. Say, so do you, because we all do this. Hesitation or slowness, it causes things to take longer or not get done. Momentary laziness in the moment. And so see it for what it is. How about this? Maybe you think about praying. Maybe you walk away from this place on a Sunday. You walk away from something like Ignite or whatever, and you say, you know what, I'm going to spend more time with God. But then you decide, I'm a little tired. Maybe you consider reading a book or opening up the Bible or reading something that'll help you in your faith, and you just put it off. I'll do that later. Maybe you think about, man, I really need to text. Maybe it's a small group leader. Maybe it's one of your pastors, something like that. And you say, I really want to ask him this question. I'll do that later, right? We keep putting it off. We are deceived into thinking that joy comes from choosing to slack in that moment, and it's a lie. And so there are 2 types of laziness. Momentary, which is when I know what I need to do right now. I know it needs to get done, but I'm not doing it. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to play this game. I'm going to watch this. I'm going to text this person. I'm going to do that. But then there's long-term laziness, long-term. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 4 says, a sluggard does not plow in season, so at the harvest time he looks, but he finds nothing. So this is talking about like the farmer who walks out to his field, and like you walk out to your backyard today and just be like, why is there not corn in my backyard? And you might be like, well, I didn't plant any corn in my backyard. Why would there be? But that's the foolishness. A sluggard doesn't plow in season. He doesn't do the work, so therefore he doesn't get the things back from that. If you don't plant obedience, you won't reap blessing. I don't know if anybody will remember this, but I did this message when I first got here where I used a tennis ball. Now, this is actually, his name's Tom, for those of you wondering. His name was Oliver, but the other one, but we have a student named Oliver, so that's just weird. So I got a new one named Tom. And the idea is when I throw a tennis ball against the wall, what's going to happen? Are you sure? He's like, no. Well, we're going to find out. Look at that. Good job. Now, nobody was shocked. Nobody's like, dude, he threw the ball against the wall and it came back, right? Because this is what happens, right? When I sow something, when I do something, I know what's going to happen as a result. You see, some of you right now are saying, why am I not growing in my faith? But the reality is, because you're not doing anything to grow in your faith. You might show up here, but you're not really writing stuff down. And then to be honest, you take notes, but you don't ever do anything with them. You don't ever look at it again. You're not talking to God. You're not trying to develop a relationship. You're not asking the questions. You're just kind of ignoring them. And you wonder why you aren't growing. The reason you're not growing is because you're not plowing, you're not planting the seeds, you're not doing things. Proverbs chapter 24, verse 30 says, I went past the field of the sluggard, past the vineyard of the man who lacks judgment. So he goes past the field of the lazy person, all right? And here's what he sees. He says, thorns have come up everywhere. The ground is covered in weeds. The stone wall was in ruins. And so he learned something from that. So why? The guy did not do the work, right? So we have this broken lawnmower. So for a long time, our lawn wasn't mowed. And so my neighbors are like obsessed with their lawns. They're like the most perfect green lawns. And then there's my jungle, right? And so when you look at that, it's like, well, why? I didn't walk outside and go, why does my lawn look like, oh, it looks like that because I didn't mow it and I didn't fix the mower, right? That's the way it is. That's the way it works. If we don't do the work, if we don't do it, we're not going to reap the things back. So I wonder, do you reap the consequences of laziness? Do your grades suffer? Are you trustworthy? When you tell someone you're going to do something, do they trust you to do it? The sluggard, the lazy person, doesn't do the work, so he doesn't reap the blessing. It's true in school, in sports, and especially in your spiritual life. I saw this quote. It was great. Some people would do anything to be able to do nothing. Does that sound like you? All you want to do, I just want to do nothing. You were made for more than that. And some people are like, I would just do anything if I could just do nothing. But you were made to do things. And so here are 4 signs of laziness for you. First one is, you have a messy room. Maybe it looks like this picture. That's my room. I'm just kidding. It's really not. Does that look familiar to anybody? Anyone want to admit that? Or maybe you have a desk area that's a little cluttered, like this. Maybe it's not quite that bad, right? So let me ask you, is your space super messy? Because that is a sign of laziness. When you look, some people are like, it's just how I am. Really? That's just how you are? Then you are lazy. You need to clean that up. You need to take the time and do that because an organized life is one where you're going to be able to accomplish the thing God has for you. How about this? You miss deadlines, right? You're supposed to get things done by a certain time and it doesn't happen. How about this? If I asked you right now how much media time you've had this week, computer, shows, video games, you wouldn't be able to tell me. That's a problem. That's a problem. How about this? 4 signs of laziness. Messy space, missed deadlines, you can't account for your media time, but this is the big one. I'm not changing. The truth is, you are the same place with God today as you were last year at this time, or 6 months ago. See, because momentary laziness adds up. It becomes long-term laziness. And it starts with every decision to not do the right thing. Every decision to not take the step of obedience. Every decision to not step out of your comfort zone and do what needs to be done. Momentary laziness turns into long-term. All right, so let's look at some consequences of laziness. Consequences of laziness. I know there's a lot here, but I think you guys can handle it. First one is this. You walk a path that's harder than it needs to be. You walk a path that's harder than it needs to be. Because of your choices, your path ends up to be more difficult. Proverbs 15:19, again, all these verses are on the back. It says, the way of the sluggard is blocked with thorns, but the path of the upright is a highway. So go back to the main point and make sure everybody gets it. You walk a path that is harder than it needs to be. And so it's saying here that the way of the sluggard, it's all blocked with thorns. If you're walking through the woods and there are thorns all over, nobody says, I'm going that way, because that's too hard of a path. You try to find an easier one. Laziness makes things harder than they need to be. I found this weird maze picture, and I thought it was interesting. Let's put that up there. There we go. Because I think some of us, like sometimes God's like, hey, I want you to be on the white path. But because of our choices, we end up going through the blue for a long period of time. Because we were lazy, because we didn't get things done, right? Sometimes it might be with school. Sometimes it might be with other stuff, right? Maybe you have to ask for extra credit, right? Maybe you have less preparation than others. Maybe you're hoping to guess right on a test because you didn't really study for it. Maybe you hope that, you don't really nurture a relationship with God, and then when hard times come, you're hoping God will still hear you, even though you're distant. You end up taking more steps to accomplish what you need to because you weren't prepared, because you delayed what needed to get done. And so it's like when I ask my kids to do something and they think the worst chore in the world is emptying the dishwasher. Does anyone agree with that? I'm curious, some of you? So like I'll say, hey, I want you to empty the dishwasher and fill it. They don't do it. Then they want something. Okay, let's say my youngest will say, well, can I go out and play with my friends? I'm like, well, yeah, after you do the dishwasher. And of course, then there's like a 30-minute meltdown, and then she kind of does it, and eventually her path is way more difficult because of the laziness, right? Had she just done it, she'd be able to do the things, and that's just a small example of what we do with God. Because we say, you know what, why is life so hard? Why am I not getting the answers I need? But we're not building that relationship with God. So consequences, you walk a path harder than it needs to be. Second thing is, you reap bad things from lazy choices. Now, this is one of my favorite proverbs. You reap bad things from lazy choices. Leave it up there. Don't put the proverb up yet so everybody can get that. Proverbs 26:15 says, the sluggard buries his hand in his dish. He's too lazy to bring it back to his mouth. And so the image there is a guy with like a bowl of food, and he's sitting there going, I'm so hungry, but I don't want to lift my hand all the way up to eat. And we look at that, we're like, that is so ridiculous. That would never happen because I would eat that food, right? Proverbs 26:15. Then Proverbs 13:4 says, the sluggard craves and gets nothing. The sluggard wants something. It's like, why can't I be closer to God? He wants it, but he doesn't do anything about it. But the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied. And so some of you right now, you are empty spiritually right now. If you were honest, you would say, I don't really have a whole lot going on with God. You've been lazy and you know what to do. You spend time with him. Just like think of the people that you're closest with in your life. When you spend time with them, you're closer with them. With God, it's no different. If we don't spend time with him, we don't have that connection. You know what you need to do, you just haven't done it for no reason other than you just put it off. Laziness ends up reaping things we don't want. We start saying things like, well, it's just this one time. I'm just going to do this once. And we start making some bad choices. We start looking around and say, well, not a lot of people my age are really pursuing God. They're not really serious about it. But God is calling you to more. God is saying, you know what? I know that you're 11, 12, 13, 14, and you hear my voice, and I want you to come and follow me. I want you to come and know me. I'm going to do great things through you. Third thing, consequences of laziness. You cause pain to others. You cause pain to others. I've had the privilege of leading a lot of mission trips over the years, and the worst things you get is a lazy worker, right? And I could always tell these people, because they do a couple things and then they kind of just find a way to find the easiest job or to go and supervise. I'm supervising. Last year we had to haul buckets of dirt all the way up to fill this wall. And I can tell you there were not a lot of lazy people on that trip because you didn't really have that choice. And the worst thing about that is what it does to your team. They have to be motivated. They have to be pushed. See, the lazy person causes pain to those around them. Proverbs 10:26 says, as vinegar to the teeth, if you want to know what that's like, just go home and drink some vinegar. That'll not be pleasant. And smoke to the eyes. You ever been at a campfire and you have to move because the smoke's coming to your eyes? So just like that, so is a sluggard to those who send him. This is what a lazy person does. It's like smoke to the eyes of other people. So I wonder, what would your parents say about you? Would they say that when they ask you to do things that you get it done? Would they say that you bring joy to them, or are you bringing smoke to the eyes? Do you contribute to your spiritual community? Some of you have been coming here for this whole year, maybe longer. And if you were honest and you looked around this room, there are so many people here you've never even talked to. Never. Why? Because you're comfortable, a little lazy, and instead of reaching out. And there are some people who are sitting in here that are saying, I just wish one person would talk to me when I go up there. You cause pain to others. You're like, I didn't mean to. Well, now you know. Wisdom is living the life you were created to by bringing joy to others. I've been fired from one job in my life, and what it was is I had a job helping this guy lead his ministry, and he asked me to make a phone call. He asked me to make a phone call to this person, and I didn't do it. He reminded me. I didn't do it again. He reminded me again, and I didn't do it again. And I had no reason. I just moved. I had all these but I could have made a phone call, and so he let me go. Funny enough, this guy is actually our Ignite camp speaker this year. So his name's Jeffrey Dean. He's the only person who's ever fired me from a job in my life. Now you know that. But here's the thing. I was causing pain. I was making things more difficult for him. He was just trying to do his job. And I was like 24 years old. I was really stupid. I didn't know anything. But the reality is, some of you right now, you're doing that to people around you. So think, am I causing pain to others? The last thing in consequences is that when you're lazy, you want wrong things. Lazy person just wants what comes easy. And they want what makes them happy, no matter what's temporary, no matter how temporary it is. I mean, that's really what sin is. Sin is a wrong attempt at meeting our needs. Sin is saying to God, I can meet my own needs. And so the lazy person, they want whatever they feel like, and they're not willing to work for what's best. Proverbs 21:25 says, the sluggard's craving will be the death of him, because his hands refuse to work. And so maybe your craving is food, maybe your craving is your phone, maybe your craving is a game, maybe it's another person, but you're like, that's what I want, and you're not doing the things that God has called you to do. So we're going to wrap up with 3 responses to laziness, 3 things we can do about this. You guys have been great. I know there's a lot of stuff here, but the message is pretty simple. And so let's look at our responses to laziness. And the first one is this: to learn from today. Learn from today. Proverbs 6:6. It says, go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways, and be wise. And the idea there is to look at the ant, to watch what he does. You've probably heard fables and so forth, and you know that the ant works really hard. Look at what he does. But then Proverbs 21:16 says, a man who strays from the path of understanding comes to the rest in the company of the dead. And the idea there is that the person who, I missed what I was saying. A man who strays from the path of understanding. So you guys are learning the way to go. This is the way of understanding, the way of work, the way of doing the things God's called you to do. When you stray away from that, it's going to take you places you don't want to go. So you can look at where you're at right now in your faith, and you can wonder how you may have gotten there. And some of you are like, I got there because I took steps towards God. Others are going to say, well, I am here because I didn't take steps. Recognizing that is a huge step. So learn from today. Grab a hold of this message. Don't just say, oh yeah, we talked about laziness, so I guess I'll clean my room, right? That's not a bad step, but this is a time for you to say, wait a minute, what does God really want me to do here? Second thing, follow others' examples. Follow others' examples. Look around you at people in your life who you would call wise. Who are some people that you would say, I think they're pretty wise, right? Ian's pretty wise. I'd look at him and say, yeah, he's pretty wise. Maybe you have a mom or dad who's pretty wise, an older brother. Probably not, but maybe. It's possible. Sister, right? Look at them and ask them for wisdom. In other words, if the people around you that you're closest with are foolish and are constantly rejecting wisdom and embracing laziness, that's where you're going to end up. And so Proverbs 13:20 says, he who walks with the wise grows wise. The companion of fools suffers harm. So look around you at the people you're doing life with, and if they are wise and they are making wise choices, that's probably where you're going to end up going. You want to be around people that reject the momentary temptation and get things done. Chances are most of you have some kind of musician or athlete or celebrity that you maybe look up to in some regards. I'm going to tell you something right now. Chances are they have people around them who are wise, who have guided them. Chances are they work really hard, right? Some people think, oh no, they're just so talented. In the life that I've lived, I've known some people who are incredibly talented who never amount to things and waste their potential simply because they don't work as hard as everybody else. So you might look at somebody like Taylor Swift and say, she is so gifted, she is so great, and she is. But she also works harder than probably anybody that you know. Right? Think about doing concerts back to back to back to back while writing songs, while doing, they work hard. And so sometimes we're just like looking up to them so much that we fail to consider the fact that they do things to get them where they're at. Meanwhile, we're just, again, watching the same show over and over again and making sure we like every one of their pictures and see every one of their videos. And God has called you to more. Follow others' examples. And the last one is this: take action. take action. All right, now we'll get some specifics. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 25 through 27 says, let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Make level paths for your feet and take only ways that are firm. Do not swerve to the right or the left. Keep your foot from evil. The idea here is figure out where you want to go and start going there. It's time for you to start walking in obedience. No more foolishness. No more laziness. There's wisdom for you. Get it, no matter the cost. Consider the reason you might feel overwhelmed or the reason you might not have the relationship with God you want is because you're not doing the things to get you there. So figure out where you want to go and don't swerve to the left. Don't swerve to the right. Stay the course. Look straight ahead. Look at the people around you and see what they're doing. And if they're not wise, move on and get people around you who are going where you want to go. You might look at something like some of you have gone to an experience where you had with God. Maybe it's a retreat or maybe it's Ignite or something like that. And you say, why doesn't it last? Why can't it last? It doesn't last because you don't take the steps to keep it real. You don't take the steps to get where you want to go. And so here we are. It's the start of summer, or close to it. You have everything you need to do something in your faith. And you can start today. Maybe, and here's just a couple simple things, maybe there's a new skill you want to learn. Maybe you've always wanted to learn to juggle. I don't know. Maybe you're like, I've always wanted to do that. You know what? Why don't you learn it? Why don't you take the time? And I know juggling, can anyone juggle, by the way? I'm just curious. Shaylee can juggle. Juggling's pretty cool, but whatever it is, I want to learn how to skateboard. I want to learn how to whatever. I want to play the guitar. You have the time. Calculate how many hours you have this summer, and it would be mind-blowing. I meant to do that and didn't. But the reality is you can learn a new skill. Start today. How about this? Second one. Organize your space. Organize your area. Maybe it's already perfect, and, props to you. But if not, look and organize it. How about this one? Clean up after yourself. I know. Without being told. Without being told. It was kind of amusing to me as I watched after the balloon game. You guys are kind of like, there's balloons all over. Interesting. Like, clean up after yourselves. And some of you are thinking, really? That's the application? Really? Because it would make a huge difference in your home, in your lives if you did that. You bring glory to God when you do that. Did you know that? When you do the things that God's wired you to do, when you take care of things, you bless your parents. But most importantly, consider what you need to do to draw near to God. What do you need to do? Do you need to pray? Maybe you need to learn to pray. I promise you're not going to just wake up one day and just know how to do it then. It's time to ask someone. Make that part of your plan. Say, I'm going to ask someone, how do I pray? Or if you already know, when are you going to do it? Chances are if you say, I'm going to do it when I first get up, most of you probably when you first get up are good for nothing. Or I'm going to do it last thing at night. Some of you are so tired by the time you get to bed. Find a time that works, right? I'm more of an afternoon kind of person. And so find that and say, I'm just going to put whatever, electronic device I have, and I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm just going to shut my door, and I'm going to go in my closet, and I'm going to spend time with God. I'm going to do what is necessary. Maybe you need to read the Bible, and you don't know what to read. Hey, I know somebody who's really good at telling people what to read in the Bible. He's wearing a striped shirt. He's right over there. You just ask him. Say, hey, what should I read in the Bible? You can ask me. You can ask a small group leader. You can ask Hannah. You can ask any of us. What should I read? We will tell you. We're not going to be like, read the Bible. Why would you do? We're going to be like, here's what to read, right? Maybe you need to download an app. We talked about that a few weeks ago. Maybe you need to download a devotion app. You have to make a plan. And so, yeah, it would be pretty great if you guys were able to walk out of this place and say, I'm going to learn a new skill, and I'm going to clean up my space. I'm going to pick up after myself. But what we want more than anything is that you make a plan to grow in your faith. No one is going to do that for you. Don't wait. Well, I wonder, who's going to Ignite? Let me see a show of hands. Who's going to Ignite? Only a few of you, apparently. That's unbelievable. That's amazing. Don't wait for Ignite and say, yeah, Ignite's going to get me going in my faith. Already be going when you get there. And then God is going to do more than you could ever imagine. And then when you come back for Ignite, you are going to have the whole summer ahead of you. So imagine if you already made a plan for your growth and you already walked into that camp knowing that where you wanted to be with God and taking those steps. And then here's the big thing. Tell someone. Whatever you decide to do, tell someone. Tell a friend. And that's awkward. Good. Be awkward. Okay? Like, it's okay. Say, hey, so today I decided that I am going to learn how to throw Chinese stars, at my siblings without hurting them. Like, I don't know. Whatever it is, you got way too excited about that, right? That's scary. Sorry about that, Mason. Mason's like, uh-oh, because he's staring right at his brother. Anyway, but here's the thing. Whatever it is, tell somebody. If you're like, you know what? I want to grow in my faith. Here's my plan. Write it out and send it to someone. Say, this is it. Why do you do that? Because then you'll actually follow through with it. Because then it gets real and it's not just something that you did. Remember we said at the beginning, laziness is the hesitation or slowness that causes things to take longer or not get done. You have everything you need to change this in your own life. And so let this be a new start. I'm going to pray for you, and then Ian's going to come up here and dismiss us. And so, Father, I'm just grateful for who you are. Thank you for the attentiveness this morning. Raise up among this room people who are willing to say, I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to learn a skill. I'm going to do something different, but I'm going to do something that matters in the eyes of my Creator. I'm going to chase after him this summer. I'm not going to wait for something else. I'm going to do it now. I'm not going to be lazy. I've heard the word today. God, I pray that you would make people in this room go over their notes, go over those verses, look them up, underline them to do something. But then how great would it be if in this room there were a lot of people who said, you know what? I'm going to tell somebody. I'm going to tell somebody what my plan is. I'm going to tell somebody what I'm going to do, that we'd be able to hold each other accountable. We're grateful for this community, and I pray that you would make this the starting point of some great things. In Jesus' name, amen.